the AMT. Welcome to Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. In this case, where street art meets and eradicates illegal street advertising. To begin this week's program, here is a video from the K-Skill about guerrilla street artists willing to risk a brush with the law to repaint the town.
Today we're involved in a massive public advertising takeover. There's a company called MPA City Outdoor, and they operate what are called street-level billboards, and they've failed to get permits through the Department of Buildings, and therefore every location that they operate is illegal. My role in the project, other than organizing it, will be driving around in a van, dropping off 13 kind of mobile whitewashing units to cover about 20,000 square feet of illegal public advertising. This project was organized through a very grassroots internet, word of mouth. We're not supported by any institutions. We kind of organized the map and the logistics of the project and then put out a call to anybody who was interested in taking back their public space. I think we got 126 out of 132 painted. We had 4 people arrested, 2 whitewashers who were in the process of getting rid of some illegal advertising. But we're going to continue with the second part of the street advertising takeover, in which about 75 artists come back and produce artworks and activist projects on top of these locations. I personally don't have any problem with advertising. I have a problem with encroaching on a public space. The goal for this project is to raise awareness about the illegal public advertising business that's operating in the city, as well as empower people to consider the public space that they live in to be their space and a space that's worth fighting for.
A slice of New York that perhaps you knew nothing of. On web video, now on TV. Later, our 5 picks of the week from the web, including David Byrne of Talking Heads tonight in a web video talking about bicycles while riding one. Also tonight, we will debut our video series, New Shop Around the Corner, to celebrate and to learn from this city's brave entrepreneurs. This week, a one-stop shop for green goods in Brooklyn.
When I was thinking about opening, I called one of our local economic development groups, and they asked if I had a business plan, and I said no, but I have a really, really good idea, and can I have a rental space? And for some reason, that wasn't quite enough for them.
See that whole video originally produced for this program later in the program. Speaking of business plans, however, tonight we will also hear from a group that dispenses microloans to urban entrepreneurs. And we'll take a close look at Bushwick, Brooklyn in the Bloomberg years. But first, politics. Today, there's a new force in New York State, a powerful party that did not exist a decade ago, the Working Families Party. They back candidates who embrace their progressive agenda of affordable housing, boosting the minimum wage, mandating paid sick days, that's a big issue right now, and saving the environment. With labor on their side and a huge grassroots street operation, it's getting hard to win an election here without their endorsement. In fact, most of their city council and citywide candidates triumphed in September's primary, including the mayoral candidate, controller candidate, and public advocate, all now officially nominated. What's the rise of the Working Families Party tell us about the electorate and doing politics in New York today? Well, let's find out. Dan Cantor is a party founder and its executive director. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You're an independent party, but most of your influence seems to be in influencing Democratic Party primaries. How do you see your role?
So it's different in the city than outside the city. In the city, you're correct. Most of the action in New York City is obviously inside the Democratic Party primary. And so Working Families and its allies tries to endorse and work for candidates who it believes are closest to our views. They'll be on the general election ballot as the Working Families nominee, but we also want them to have a second line, namely the more important line of the Democratic Party.
So in this case, that includes John Liu, who won the controller primary, very much with your backing. Same for Bill de Blasio, who got the public advocate nominee, and Bill Thompson, who was going to win anyway, but he also has your line. How much influence do you claim in getting John Liu and Bill de Blasio nominated?
You know, politics people always claim more than they deserve, and we're getting more credit than we deserve in many respects. With de Blasio and Liu especially, I think we were a very important part of their team, but you don't do this without a first-rate candidate with good ideas and a lot of hard work. There were a lot of people around their table. I would think that part of our role was being an early endorser and elevating their chances. That's part of what we try to do. You know, our basic view is there's a big market for sensible progressive politics in New York State generally, but in the city for sure. And so if we can give someone a boost by an early endorsement, we like to do that. With Bill Thompson, obviously, he was the front runner from the start, and that's obviously, that election is still very much up in the air.
Describe your turnout operation, because people say in a tiny election where almost nobody votes, like the primaries we just had, your turnout operation can get some meaningful percentage of folks to the polls. Who do you go for and how do you do it?
Sure. There's nothing magical here, right? There's nothing mysterious about what good organizing does. You try to identify, you try to persuade people, identify your supporters, remind them again. When they tell you, stop reminding me, I'm not going to vote for you, that's when we know we've won. And get them to the polls and try to combine, you know, have a little bit of an echo effect so they're hearing it from people they trust. We hope WFP is a trusted brand. We used to have reputations, now we have brands. A trusted name for voters in both the Democratic primary and the general, but also community organizations and unions and others who, again, are at the same table with us. You know, people in lower level elections, which in America is almost everything below, you know, president, people are looking for a signal. And so if they hear of who to vote for from someone they trust, that's what we try to do.
So people say the union-backed Working Families Party. Are there particular unions that you're most involved with?
Sure.
Who are these voters?
Sure. I mean, it depends where, and you know, it depends which borough, if we're sticking with the city. But the Hotel Trades Council, or so the hotel workers, the phone company workers, healthcare workers, the building janitors, building service workers. These are all organized unions that sit at the WFP table, along with groups like ACORN and community organizations, Citizen Action and others, that are also at the table. And jointly, we'll look at a district and say, well, look at this. We actually have 10,000 members of our affiliated organizations live in this district. And the primary, you need 6,000 votes to win. So we start with a pool of people to talk to who are not hearing from us for the first time because they've been hearing from their community group or their union for many, many, many years.
So in a minute we'll talk about getting out the vote for Bill Thompson in an election that he's supposed to lose, but that the polls say there's some chance that he would win.
There's a path there.
I want to show a video from the Working Families Party website here, and this gets to the issues that they're concerned with. They ask people how much you have to earn to be in the city's top tax bracket.
So for New York State, how much do you think you have to be making per year to be in the very top income tax bracket?
Million? At least 5 million and up. I'm guessing it's $250,000 and up.
If you're not making a $500,000, you're nowhere near what you're supposed to make.
The highest income bracket?
Yeah.
240,000. It's actually 20,000. What?
You're kidding.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. $20,000 is below the poverty line, so that's like, I mean, that's amazing.
actually, I made a mistake going into that video. I said the city's top tax bracket. That was the state.
Right.
Now, the state this year, in the face of that $14 billion deficit, did enact a so-called millionaire's tax, which is really an income tax hike on people making about $250,000 or $300,000 or more.
Right.
So was that video made before that?
Yes.
To influence that decision?
This was very much part of the campaign. We're very proud of this effort. You know, every state in America faced and faces these terrible budget gaps. New York was the only state of the 50 states that tried to close its gap, not merely by making cuts, which you have to make at certain times, but by also asking the wealthiest New Yorkers to pay. There has been, in our view, not everybody's view, a tremendous shift of income up from the middle and working class up. So we were trying to get at that.
And I want to show one more video from your site. This is you asking Mayor Bloomberg a question about his self-funded campaign, which with his wealth can overwhelm that of his opponent.
One of the core beliefs of the Working Families Party is that all persons should be free and equal in a democracy, and that in our society we work to limit the advantages that wealth provides that can distort or threaten democratic norms. It's one person, one vote, not $1, one vote. Is this not a valid concern? And in the spirit of fair play, why not agree to a level playing field on campaign spending?
I made every dime that I have. I'm proud of what we've done, and I see no harm in going out and using that money to tell people about what we've accomplished and what we would do. Let me also point out that you can't have a totally fair, equal election. Some people went to better schools than others. Some people were luckier into the families they were born into. Some people are members of parties that have an enormous number of people that automatically vote that line. No matter what you do, you're always going to find differences. But I've used my money only to talk about what I would do and what I have done. That's nothing wrong with that as far as I can see. Let me also point out that rich people don't always win.
Was he there trying to get your endorsement, competing for your endorsement?
Yes.
Why didn't he get it?
At the end of the day, people felt that the mayor, while he hasn't been, he isn't Giuliani, so there's not this sort of anger at him. From our point of view, he asks himself the wrong questions. He doesn't ask, how does this affect ordinary New Yorkers? He looks at issues like development through a different lens. And so our table, our people, our leadership, decided to support Comptroller Thompson, who we felt, had over the many years showed a deeper commitment to the concerns that we think are crucial for middle-class families.
I've been having trouble finding what Bill Thompson says he will do to change the city if elected mayor. He's been running on anger at the term limits extension and at the way Bloomberg spends his money. There are critiques there that, you can argue pro or con, but what will Bill Thompson change?
Well, there's a lot of different aspects to the Thompson program. He's clearly, from our point of view, has a better view on fair taxation and a stronger view. The mayor hasn't been terrible on housing, but we think Thompson's going to be a lot stronger on the need to really keep rent affordable.
Briefly, the paid sick days movement.
Sure.
It's important right now. What's it about?
So this comes off of these recent elections. The challenge for working families is not just to win elections, but to convert it into policy gains that improve people's lives. One that we want to work for right now is requiring all employers, not just large employers, all employers to provide at least a certain modest number of paid sick days. You think about people working at McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts. You don't want them going to work sick. And so we're trying to insist that the city require all employers to provide this, and we're very confident that we're going to produce.
Is there a downside of a party that's formed partly with the help of the city workers' unions in electing the controller and the public advocate who are supposed to monitor the work and the spending of those workers?
I mean, most of the city unions aren't part of the Working Families Party, but the teachers are, and we're very proud to have them. No, the short answer is these are independent leaders who get elected, and they're not waiting to be told by us what to do. I hope they're proud to have our support because government is also about politics and policy, and we want leaders who are going to look at the issues, whether it's city workers or private sector workers. Their job, I mean, they have different jobs, but the thing that we insist on is that they not just consider the interests of the already powerful. We really insist that that's the wrong way to go.
Dan Cantor, Executive Director of the Working Families Party. If you didn't hear of them before, you've heard of them in this election cycle, and we'll see what influence they have on November 3rd. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Here are this week's 5 online video picks. Video pick number 1. David Byrne from Talking Heads has penned a book about bikes called The Bicycle Diaries. Here's a clip from a very moving New York Times video with Byrne, done right from the saddle in the bike lanes of New York.
To many New Yorkers, this has become a common sight. David Byrne, the musician, artist, and former Talking Heads frontman, riding his bike through New York City.
It's hard for a lot of New Yorkers to remember what this area used to be like. It was pretty much a dark underbelly of downtown.
Byrne is one of the city's most visible and vocal advocates of urban bicycling.
The city has gradually become more accommodating. They've started adding like painted bike lanes. Now in the last few years, the pace is really quickened. I'll plan my route from A to B based on where these bike lanes are.
Over the last few years, he's designed bike racks, promoted bike share programs, and pushed for more bike access in city streets.
Well, as a commuter, right now I live in Midtown on the west side, and I'll use the Hudson River bike path as a way of getting up and down town. And then I'll just come down to, say, Canal or Spring Street down here and cut into Soho rather than riding through down the streets or avenues.
So if this route ever became really popular as a commute, it would get kind of crowded at certain hours in the morning, I guess.
How it feels to ride around in the city, there's an exhilaration. You get this kind of very kind of nicely paced perspective of the city that I think because you're kind of gliding on wheels, it feels kind of dreamy, and there's a sense of kind of floating through the landscape and watching it as it goes by. But you can stop at any moment if something catches your eye.
So what recommendations does a gracefully aging rock star have for his home city?
Bury the West Side Highway, put it underground, put the highway underground if you want to keep the damn highway. More bike lanes in areas that aren't served, which means probably the east side. There aren't very many bike lanes, say on the East Village, connecting the East Village to different, there's a couple, but not that many.
For a guy who's been biking here since the 1970s, the pace of change may seem slow, but Byrne seems to think that maybe someday we'll get there.
Yeah, but little by little. It's not going to be something overnight.
So David Byrne is a dedicated bicycle rider, but except in his music, he is not a daredevil like this next extreme urban biker who tears through the favelas of Brazil. We found this week's video pick number 2 on the sports fan site known as fandom.com.
Okay guys, this is the start gate of the world's gnarliest street race. We're about to descend 800 meters into the favela. This will be fun. Ready, bro? Okay, so that's the first step down into the fast step section here. Come into this bit absolutely lit. Blind drop into there. Smash a big left. Right now we're on the church roof. Dropping into a fast step section. Really hard braking down here. To a tight right. Straight into a tight left off a drop. Can hear the crowd absolutely crazy down here. Look at the water on the steps. Only making braking a lot harder right now. Into more wood sections, more wet wood here to brake on. This corner's just full of mud and trash, really hard to ride. Tricky little obstacle of wood, bit of a sprint to get on. You can see how tight this is right now. Lots of marshals pointing which way to go. Smash the tight left. Look how steep this wood step section is. Coming into one of the gnarliest step sections, huge drop on the outside. So you don't want to get that wrong. Bit of a sneaky line there. Smashing down more steps. Really hard to brake on this wood section. So you really got to pin it. Bit of a party going on there. It's all off camera raw. Nice. Always good to have the ladies present.
bit of help from the crowd there with the direction. See the step sections, super low, you've got to duck down here.
Can hear the crowd absolutely crazy down here. More steps.
Lights going a bit as well. I think we're nearly there though. More gnarly step sections. Smash a big right hander. Big old crowd here. We'll step down into the finish.
Admit it, were you nervous? From Rio de Janeiro back to New York for one more two-wheeler. Maybe you've seen this Spider-Man in the East Village. Stian Russin immortalized him on web video. A little slice of New York. Maybe you've seen that guy immortalized by Stian Rasmussen on web video. Video pick number 4. This is from this year's TED Talks conference. Let's watch an excerpt from a fascinating lecture by Eric Sanderson, who made a 3D map of New York City as it looked just before Henry Hudson arrived 400 years ago.
We use the tools they use in Hollywood to make these fantastic landscapes that we all see in the movies. And we tried to use it to visualize Third Avenue. So we would take the landscape and we would build up the topography. We would lay on top of that the soils and the waters and illuminate the landscape. We would lay on top of that the map of the ecological communities and feed into that the map of the species so that we can actually take a photograph flying above Times Square looking toward the Hudson River, waiting for Hudson to come. Using this technology, we can make these fantastic georeference views. We can basically take a picture out of any window on Manhattan and see what that landscape looked like 400 years ago. This is the view from the East River looking up Murray Hill at where the United Nations is today. This is the view looking down the Hudson River with Manhattan on the left and New Jersey out on the right, looking out toward the Atlantic Ocean. This is the view over Times Square with the Beaver Pond there, looking out toward the east. So we can see the Collect Pond and the Lisbonard marshes back behind. We can see the fields that the Native Americans made. And we can see this in the geography of the city today. I hope you appreciate that Manhattan was a very special place. The place that you see here on the left side was interconnected. It was based on its diversity. It had this resilience that is what we need in our modern world. But I wouldn't have you think that I don't like the place on the right, which I quite do. I've come to love the city and its kind of diversity and its resilience and its dependence on density and how we're connected together. In fact, that I see them as reflections of each other. Much as Lewis Carroll did through The Looking Glass, we can compare these two and hold them in our minds at the same time, that they really are the same place, that there's no way that cities can escape from nature. And I think this is what we're learning about building cities of the future.
And on his site, you can actually click on your block and see what it seemed to have looked like 400 years ago. And video pick number 5 from the dailies. It's 4 hands on 1 guitar. Don't try this unless you know each other really, really well. those are this week's online video picks. Coming up next, Bushwick in the Bloomberg years. We'll take a very close look. This is Brian Lehrer Live.
These kids almost had a new community center. A contractor almost volunteered to build it. A carpenter almost worked on the crew. And everyone else almost gave at the fundraiser. They almost gave. Almost. And these kids? Well, they almost stayed out of trouble.
Say, are you worried about H1N1? You know, swine flu. Well, CUNY says protect yourself from hidden horrors. Here's how. After touching public surfaces, don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. Flu is also spread when infected people cough at you. Sneeze into a tissue, never your bare hands. Or use your elbow. Wash often with soap and water. Or use an alcohol-based hand cleanser. There are two kinds of flu shots this season. Consult your doctor or healthcare provider on the regular and H1N1 vaccinations. Most importantly, if you feel sick and have fever, stay home. Yes, a little caution goes a long way.
For more information, visit our website, cuny.edu, and click on H1N1 Update.
This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Former Mayor Koch used to stop people on the street and ask, "How am I doing?" The magazine called City Limits Investigates is more scientific in its mayoral assessments. It's done a careful study now of one neighborhood, Bushwick in Brooklyn, to see how it has fared in Mayor Bloomberg's 8 years. Why Bushwick? Well, no area of the city is typical, but Bushwick happens to be the geographic center of New York City, and it's been through a lot. There was looting in 1977 during the blackout, and it remains one of the last neighborhoods near Manhattan to come up. And with gentrification, there are still winners and losers. This protest was in 2007.
What do we need? Housing! What do we need? Housing! What do we need? Housing! What do we need? Now! What do we need? Housing! What do we need? Housing! What do we need? Housing! What do we need? Now!
I'm a part of Make Your Road by Walking because they're a good organization and they're fighting for people's rights. If you can afford to pay this kind of rent, that's nice, but the people that are here, we can't afford to pay this kind of rent. So why try to push this out? Build this in your own neighborhood. Don't come and bring it here. If you're going to bring it here, put some affordable housing in there.
Quick, because the next step in gentrification, and we have to make these connections, is police occupation, and we have to understand that. The minute these buildings show up, there's a lot more of a police presence in our community, a lot more of our youth are being incarcerated, a lot more youth are being criminalized.
That web video excerpt from the New York Times website of that 2007 Bushwick protest. So how is Bushwick doing now? And what does its fate tell us about City Hall's priorities in this election year? Joining us, Jarrett Murphy, editor of City Limits Investigates, which has done a study of the neighborhood in the Bloomberg years. Hey, Jarrett, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Before we talk about what you found, let's lay out some basic facts about Bushwick for people who live elsewhere in the city and may not know. Where is it in Brooklyn, and who lives there?
Bushwick is a neighborhood on the northern edge of Brooklyn. It borders on Queens. It is a neighborhood that is overwhelmingly Latino. About 2/3 of the people who live there are of Latino origin. About 1/4 of them are black, and the rest are split more or less evenly between whites and Asians. It is a neighborhood that is among the city's poorer. I think it was the 7th poorest in the most recent check of that. It is a neighborhood that has a relatively high crime rate and one that has a median income that's lower than the city's average.
You're right that the first thing most people in Bushwick mention when asked about what has changed in the last 8 years is the reduction in crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to play a little video that references the old Bushwick. Actually, I made a slight error. That last one was not a New York Times video, but this one is. produced by the Times with today's Bushwick residents talking about what happened in the blackout of 1977 when so many stores in Bushwick were looted.
'77, that's when all of it really went crazy. Broadway used to be a nice, beautiful place. But now they're rebuilding, and we appreciate that they're rebuilding, and we hope nothing like that ever happens again.
For the poor people, it was their chance to get, you know, what they didn't have. You know, like TVs, food, you know, clothing, etc., etc.
Wow. You said everybody was, when the lights went out, everybody just went crazy. Yes, this is the block I grew up on. I've been here all my life. If I looked a little close, I could probably name a couple of people that's in here.
You have to remember that Bushwick is probably the poorest community in the city. And so this stuff doesn't really surprise me that it happened, given the abject poverty of this area. So, and it was even poorer then. This area is now being gentrified.
But I do remember, like I said, living in the back of a furniture store. I can't think of the name of it, but we saw people taking TVs, stereos, and everything out of there. Sometimes they was putting it in our yard to hold it and stuff. Oh yeah, I remember that.
So that excerpt from a New York Times video of Bushwick residents talking about the past and the president, and just to give credit where credit is due, on the web videos that we sample from the previous one was by the activist group Make the Road by Walking. Talk about 1977 and why that was so pivotal to 30 years of Bushwick history thereafter.
Well, I think the riots have to be seen not as a beginning or an end. You know, they marked sort of the culmination of years, if not decades, of social disintegration in the neighborhood. And, you know, while they wreaked a lot of havoc and caused a lot of destruction, what came after that was almost worse. Especially the area we looked at, which was slightly north of the area most affected by that night's rioting. They weren't affected by the fires of that evening or the looting of that evening. They were affected by the economic devastation that followed. People leaving the area, especially homeowners who are a stabilizing force, rapid depopulation. I think they lost about 1/3 of their population over the next decade. You know, shops closing because there was no business. And I think the story since then, and even in the past 8 to 10 years, has really been about the slow, very slow recovery from the riots and from the period of blight and despair that they kind of triggered.
And you're right that crime, which started to decline in the 90s, has continued to go down in the Bloomberg years. And yet you have some stop and frisk statistics. Crime is higher in Bushwick than on the Upper West Side by a factor of 2, but the number of searches is higher by a fraction of, or a factor of 10. One incident, the Bushwick 32. 32 youths arrested when they were on the way to the funeral of a friend, a reputed gang member. Charges against most were dismissed, and the city is paying $260,000 to some members of the group to settle a lawsuit. What is that emblematic of?
I think it's emblematic of the fact that there has been a response to crime in the city that has had byproducts. And the byproduct of it in this neighborhood is a large police presence that some see as heavy-handed. And it's an open question, it depends who you ask, whether that is directly connected to the reduction in crime, whether it's a necessary byproduct or not.
And the NYPD would be so upset to hear people question that, because I think in all earnestness, they say we flood the high crime zones with police officers, and we do a lot of stops and frisks under certain guidelines that they set for themselves to bring down crime in high crime areas. And oh, look, Bushwick, it's working.
They certainly would say that, and you know, there's some legitimacy to that. The fact that they do put more police officers into high crime areas means they're going to stop more people there. That sort of stands to reason. I think it's a question of degree, and it's a question also that the question that people I talked to who had some questions about how the police had operated was about the fact that it's not like the stop and frisks don't have consequences of their own. They're different than crime. Nobody's getting killed in those incidents, but they do have an effect, and they have an effect on potential allies of police. Because if you look at the numbers, about 89% of the 4,700 to 5,000 people who've been stopped so far this year were found not to have been doing anything that warranted a summons or an arrest. So they're innocent people. Theoretically, the police, allies of the police, who could be alienated by this. And I think that's a concern that would need to be part of that conversation, in addition to the benefits that the tactic has.
Let's shift gears and talk about another central issue to the neighborhood, and that is housing and gentrification. And here's another clip from that New York Times video. It starts with Father John Powis, a retired priest and activist for low-income tenants.
The other side of the street here is some of the poorest families living in Bushwick, are living right across the street here. And then this monstrosity is built here, obviously to attract people from outside the neighborhood who could afford this type of thing. It just doesn't make any kind of sense. What it says to the whole neighborhood is that your days are numbered living here. Would you think of moving here?
Good start for our neighborhood.
Well, it's a good start, or for some people it may be a bad start, because it may mean that they're going to lose their places to live.
3 family for 1,600. Yeah, that's too much. That's too much for minimum wage. It's too much for minimum wage. I even go to eat, feed their family. It's rough.
Right now I see like a lot of yuppies are moving in, Asians, you know what I'm saying, Indian people, and they bring a diversity that, I can enjoy, like an African restaurant.
So we've talked a little about the pros and cons of the anti-crime policies, the housing policies. How have the Bloomberg affordable housing policies worked in Brooklyn? He has set out to create 165,000 units of affordable housing, I think over a 10-year period. Has Bushwick been more hurt by gentrification, in your conclusion, or more helped by affordable housing programs of the mayor?
I think at the moment it's hard to say. I think looking at the trends, it's easier to say that over the next couple of years it's going to be hurt more by gentrification. Just that, several thousand units, I think between 2,000 and 4,000 units have been built or preserved in Bushwick under the mayor's affordable housing plan, which is terrific, and as far as it goes, obviously a very good thing. But that's only one part of the housing picture. There are larger market forces at play, and I think the people who are concerned about gentrification in Bushwick, which, let's remember, is kind of a crazy idea. 10 years ago, the idea that people would want to live in Bushwick who had money to live somewhere else would have been stunning, but now it is a real threat to the neighborhood. I think people would say that development policies that have allowed luxury high-rises like we saw there, have pushed people out of other neighborhoods and into Bushwick to compete for the remaining affordable housing there, that they're going to have a larger effect that will wash out the affordable housing impact of the Bloomberg plan.
Did you try to figure out where the displaced people from Bushwick affordable housing are going?
It's a mystery we've looked at in a lot of neighborhoods and citywide. It's hard to find them, mainly because they often don't exactly go anywhere, at least not at first. They tend to double up with relatives. That's the most likely route of escape. And so the removal from the neighborhood is then sort of a slow process when sort of people get on each other's nerves or landlords get angry and kick them out. But that's usually where people go first.
So I think people should really read this magazine. It is so interesting. City Limits investigates a really in-depth look at one neighborhood, Bushwick, Brooklyn, in the Bloomberg years. What's your conclusion?
I think this neighborhood reflects the successes that New York City has had, not just during the Bloomberg years, but also in prior decades, successes that are credited to the mayor, the police, and the communities themselves. But I think in those successes are real challenges that are sort of coming to bear in a lot of neighborhoods now, challenges about affordability, challenges around preserving the gains in schools and making sure the gains in safety on the street don't come with unintended consequences.
Did you look at what the biggest differences would be in policy that would affect Bushwick in a Bill Thompson administration, or is that beyond the scope of your investigation?
It was beyond the scope of the investigation, but I've paid attention to the campaign, obviously, and I think the point you made in an earlier segment tonight is true. We haven't heard a lot about what Bill Thompson would do. We invited, I should mention, both campaigns to weigh in for the piece, and neither opted to. I would have been interested to hear what they were going to do for Bushwick and other neighborhoods like it around town.
Jarrett Murphy, editor of City Limits Investigates. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Now we'd like to introduce a new series on this show called New Shop Around the Corner, where we will meet New Yorkers who are creating brand new businesses in the face of this uncertain economy. Today, a former event planner who bravely quit her day job in hopes of making a living and a difference in her own Brooklyn neighborhood, Cobble Hill.
My name is Alyssa Olin, and I am the owner of Green in Brooklyn, an eco-friendly home goods store in Clinton Hill. We opened on Earth Day, April 22nd, 2009, so we have almost been open 6 months at this point. My family and I are living, and we're living as green a life as we were able to, and the neighborhood we lived in, we live in Bed-Stuy, getting the products that we needed was often inconvenient and difficult. We'd have to leave the neighborhood, we'd have to go to more than one store, half a dozen stores. I wanted it to be convenient and easy. I want people to know that when they walk into Green in Brooklyn, that any product that they pick up is a step towards a greener home and life. And we put forth our logo to reflect that. Each of the 4 squares talks about a different aspect of a green product. Economical, energy-saving, healthy alternatives that are also earth-friendly. One of our best sellers and one of my favorites is the Clean Canteen. It's stainless steel. There's no liner that's going to shred. There's no liner that's going to get discolored or have any kind of funny smell. It's just simply stainless steel, which is the most hygienic metal that you can use on food. It's a food-safe metal. The other thing is that it has this wonderful wide mouth and it fits ice cubes, which for me personally is one of the most exciting things about it. And your water tastes really good. I love this wallet because it's such a classic. These products are made from recycled bicycle inner tubes. They are from a company in El Salvador. It's really well made and it can stretch, so when you make more money, it'll all fit in here. Plus, because they're made from recycled inner tubes, they don't wear out very quickly. And then they also have this really beautiful, very hip, very groovy bag that actually is quite fashionable. Just because something is an eco-friendly product or a green product, and my people are hippies, but you don't have to look like a hippie. This product is designed by a Pratt graduate, a trash can made from 100% post-consumer recycled plastic. They allow you to store your trash bags. You can have half a dozen or more in here, and then when you're ready to store your trash, simply pull one up, put your trash in there. With the other bags down there, they're stored. They're cute, they're efficient, and they're eco-friendly. When I was thinking about opening, I called one of our local economic development groups, and they asked if I had a business plan, and I said no, but I have a really, really good idea, and can I have a rental space? And for some reason that wasn't quite enough for them. But it was suggested by the representative from this group, which is the Pratt Area Community Council, that I call another group called CAMBA and talk to them about their economic development programs. And the day that I called them, they were starting a class that was basically a business plan writing class. So I entered that class. It was a 10-week intensive, so much work. And in the course of that time, the whole class was encouraged to enter the Brooklyn Public Library's Power Up Business Plan competition. And I did so because I felt it would really push me to write the best business plan that I could. And if I won, I'd get some money, and that would be really helpful towards getting my business started. So I entered in September. In November, I was asked to come and be a finalist and defend the business plan. And in January, I was offered the second prize in the business plan competition, which was wonderful because it allowed me to take the money and the awards that we received and stop working my day job in January so that I could work towards the build out and the opening of the store in April. The more assistance you get, the better informed, the better ready you are to handle what comes through the door. Well, everyone needs a magic wand. These are made from sustainable wood. They're made by a family-run business. They're cute. There's a lot of city and state and local programs that can be really helpful also. But I also got loans through a couple of those places. There's a group called Renaissance and again Canva that have small business loans. And there's grants. Again, the Business Improvement District on Myrtle Avenue offered grants for build out on the space and gave free help with the logo that I talked about. Pratt Area Community Council, or PAC they call themselves, nyc.gov, your library. Those are all really helpful places to go. There's so many resources. I went to a college called Antioch College in Ohio, and the founder of the college in the 1800s left the graduating class with the words, "Be ashamed to die until you've won some victory for humanity." I don't know that I'm winning a huge victory for humanity with Green in Brooklyn, but I do feel like I'm doing something that I can believe in is making some difference that I can be proud of and that I can believe in.
That video portrait produced by our own Brian Winkowski. More inspiration from new business owners in all 5 boroughs in coming weeks. For more information on the Brooklyn Public Library's Power Up Business Plan competition and other organizations which help launch Green in Brooklyn, visit our website, brianlehrer.tv. But don't surf away just yet, because we're about to meet a group that jumpstarts businesses with that Nobel Prize-winning model, microloans. It's called Project Enterprise, and take a look. People swear by it.
I'm Crystal Cotton of Crystal Clear Connections, and what I like about Project Enterprise is the sense of community to build my business.
Hello, my name is Wayne Devenish. My company is Working Minds Management and Development, and what I love about Project Enterprise is the structure. Project Enterprise has given me a lot of direction, a lot of focus, and without Project Enterprise, I really would not be moving my business. So thank God for Project Enterprise.
Derek Guest, Grills Road Film Productions, and what I love about Project Enterprise is not only do I connect with small business, but big business.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Shields, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Parenting Training Network. We provide parent workshops and trainings, and what I love about Project Enterprise is everything, but if I had to choose 2 things, it would definitely be the EAP program, which was the Entrepreneurial Assistance Program, in which I learned to do my business plan, and the support that I received from my center. I just recently went full-time with my business in June, and I could not have done that without the backup of Project Enterprise.
With microloans and big connections, Project Enterprise fosters entrepreneurs in areas of the city that are short on resources. How exactly is that done? Joining us, Mel Washington, Executive Director of Project Enterprise, and George Williams of UJAMAA Communications, Project Enterprise's Entrepreneur of the Year. Mel, people who've heard of microloans have heard of them in connection usually with the Grameen Bank, which gives these tiny little loans to people starting businesses in Bangladesh and elsewhere in the developing world. How do you apply that model to New York City?
Yeah, actually, Project Enterprise was formed about 13 years ago by 2 individuals, Deborah and Nick Shasky, who had actually visited Bangladesh, spent some time with Muhammad Yunus, decided to bring the Grameen model back to New York.
Yunus is the Nobel Prize winner for that work.
That is correct. And we actually have replicated to a great extent the Grameen model in 4 boroughs in New York City. We are in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx. And the model basically is that the peer lending model, which is our core program, whereby we loan at a maximum of $1,500 to individuals, and these individuals are all part of a group. And we actually basically loan the $1,500 to the group on behalf of the individual. The individual is responsible, as well as the group, for making sure that the loan is paid back.
$1,500, George, is chump change in the economy of the United States. Tell us about your business and how a mere $1,500 loan helped you launch it.
Well, $1,500 may sound like a mere chump change, but actually it's not. And I can tell you, UJAMAA Communication, we're IT and computer support business. And when I used the $1,500 when I got the loan, it came in very handy. I remember I had just gotten the keys to my new office space, and I was literally paid, the majority of the money I had onto the lease property, and I had no money to fix up the property, and I used the $1,500 to build a floor, to build the flooring for my office, and also to create a reception desk, which went very well, and we were able to open the door with that $1,500. So hey, chump change to some, but to me, it was the key to my success.
What makes him the Entrepreneur of the Year for 2009?
Well, he actually won the what we call the Charles B. Benenson Entrepreneur Award, and it's an award that's given to. He was nominated by his peers, as were several others, and the success of George's business, his involvement with Project Enterprise. He's a leader in our organization. He teaches one of our classes, and again, the overall success of his business and the fact that his business is really beginning to provide support in the community.
Let's take a look at a Project Enterprise video about last year's Entrepreneur of the Year winner, Mustaqeen Abdul Azim.
Project Enterprise has been a wonderful, wonderful existence for me. I really started with Project Enterprise around the same time I started this, October of 2002. I had about $100 that I had gathered up, and I had two products. I had some raw black soap, which is what she has in her hand, and some of this shea butter, matter of fact. Those two products is all I had. I had a little fold-up card table, and I had my voice and hustle, and I would be here 12, 14, 16 hours a day. I would be praying here. You know, I would make my prayers here. I would eat here. If it got really cold, I would sit inside of Starbucks. And, you know, I would walk people down the street insisting that they buy something from me. Oh, come on, you know you want some of this. Come on, it's good for you. All right, I'll see you tomorrow, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. You know, all right. Next time, free lotion, get a free sample right here, right here. For me, the biggest part of Project Enterprise is it's a support group, a support network of other entrepreneurs.
That no matter how the economy gets, somebody's going to be making money. The number one thing we don't want to do is panic. In order not to panic, we have to plan. So you plan, once you plan, have plan A, B, and C.
All right, that was good. I have a van, and I got the van as a result of taking a loan out from Project Enterprise. You know, the loan actually helped me pay for the van. Yeah. So it's a good day for me.
Project Enterprise's Entrepreneur of the Year 2008, Project Enterprise's 2009 Entrepreneur of the Year right here. Tell us about the process, George. How does the group help you? Do you have contact with individuals besides getting the loans?
Well, yeah, we get together every 2 weeks. We have a center meeting, and where we go through certain logistics, and we count on the loans. We also go through a process of where the loan packages are created by individuals, and we also will help each other create their loan packages. And we have a process of actually voting on the loan. So once the loan is ready for the center, the center to review, we'll actually get together and review the loan and actually take a vote. And you know that's the process that really helps and really gets the entrepreneurs the money.
And so, Mel, what are they voting on? What kinds of businesses are most appropriate to get these microloans from Project Enterprise? Tons of businesses out there would like to get some loans.
Sure, yeah. Since our inception, we have supported well over 3,000 small businesses. We've given out 610 loans in the past 13 years. Average loan size is about $2,500. The businesses vary. They are retail businesses. They're like Mustaqeen business, street vendor, the individual who produced the videos that we just saw is in the film business. He has his own filming company. So they vary all over the lot. The majority of the people that come to Project Enterprise are individuals who don't have the collateral or the credit history to go through the normal bank channels to secure loans. And the thing that we're most proud of is the fact that we provide them with training, and we stay with our entrepreneurs from the time that they've come through our first training program until they decide to move on.
By the way, one correction from a little earlier, the store Green in Brooklyn that was profiled in Brian Winkowski's video is in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. We mentioned Cobble Hill, but that store is in Clinton Hill if you're looking for it. Does the money now come from you, among others, for others who are applying for the loans, if this is a peer lending program?
Well, it actually doesn't come from the entrepreneurs. The Project Enterprise raises money, and they use that as a pool of money, which we are given loans from. But as we pay back our loans, then that money goes back into the pool, and now it's being used for other entrepreneurs to now run their business.
So you're looking for some wealthier individuals to donate money to be used for these loans?
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be terrific? Just think about what he just said. The dollar that there's a 92% repayment rate, and that money is basically recycled. So it allows us, as individuals repay the loans, it allows us to increase the value of that loan in terms of addressing poverty in the communities, because we can take that money back and loan it out again.
20 seconds. What's next for your business, and where can people find you if they want to patronize your business?
Well, immediately we just started hiring today, looking for additional techs, and you can find us at 2386 7th Avenue in Harlem, in the East Travis Road area. Our phone number is 888-283-7925, and we're also on the web at UJAMAA.net.
And for people who want to either donate to or apply for loans from Project Enterprise?
www.projectenterprise.org.
Do you find it a little ironic that you're in good shape and the big banks aren't able to make their loans?
Well, we're fortunate. We have some wonderful supporters, and we're looking for more.
Thank you both very much. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
And that's it for tonight's show. We're here Wednesday nights at 7:30 or as a podcast at CUNY.TV. And join me for my daily radio show, weekday mornings at 10 on WNYC. Tomorrow morning, David Byrne from Talking Heads on his Bicycle Diaries. That's on AM 820 and 93.9 FM WNYC. Tomorrow morning at 10. Have a great night.